Yo, guys, it's your favorite co-host back in the podcast studio. How we doing today, Mackenzie?
So good.
Heck yeah. Welcome back to the Mental Health Podcast. We're on to our fourth and final topic. You excited?
So excited.
Heck yeah. We're going to be discussing anxiety today, something that's obviously has a huge effect on so many people in the world today. So just super grateful for the opportunity to get to talk about this.
So yeah, let's jump right in.
Heck yeah.
So Jackson, what is anxiety and what is the root cause of it?
So anxiety, in real simple terms, is just extreme worry or anxious thoughts about something that you can't control, right? Things that are probably not going to happen, but you still obsessively worry. It's an obsessive worry about something that's probably not going to happen. Very low probability of happening. And this is typically caused by difficult experiences in childhood, adolescence, or adulthood. And they're super common. Anything can trigger anxiety, kind of like depression. Any big major event that had a negative connotation to it. So going through stress and trauma when you're very young is super likely to trigger anxiety, just because it's out of your hands. There's nothing that you can do about it. And so experiences also can trigger things, or physical or emotional abuse.
Yeah.
Those things can also have a huge effect on whether or not you're going to have anxiety, because once again, those things are out of your control. And ultimately, anxiety comes from where things are out of your hands and you worry about them anyway.
Yeah.
And especially particularly when it comes to trauma or loss. Those things are obviously, you can't do anything about that.
That's so good. So what does the world say about anxiety?
Man, there's so many different conflicting things. There's some good things that it has to offer, right? And there's some mostly negative. There's so many loud voices talking about anxiety and what it looks like and how to deal with it in the world. And so, some of the most common things, medically, the world tells you hey, go seek counseling, go get therapy, medical attention. I'm not discrediting that. That's obviously a super great thing. But the world also tells you hey, you should just not worry. Just get over it. That's I don't struggle with anxiety, but I have friends that do. And obviously coming from them, those things are not encouraging. They don't help. They only serve to tear down, because obviously while we can't fully understand, we should be able to empathize with the fact that we have anxious thoughts about things. And also I wanted to draw the difference between having an anxious thought and then struggling with anxiety. Being anxious about things that happens to everyone, but a continuous obsession with anxiety, that's very, very different. So
no, I think a lot of people struggle, and it's typically whenever you're in isolation. I think that's when we see it the most, of when you're not surrounded by the distractions of the world. It's when you're just sitting alone with your thoughts, what are you thinking about? Are you struggling with?
That's so true.
Okay, so what does the word say about anxiety and how having to live and walk through anxiety?
Right, so there's a few different scriptures about this. The first one, Philippians 4:6, it says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving present your request to God." And obviously I think this really practically wraps up how we should target and deal with anxiety by walking with the Lord. Obviously he's gone before us and prepared our way, and so we have no reason to be anxious about things like that. But also understanding hey, giving that over to him and taking every thought captive. And I know that's something that we hear a lot, especially in Christian circles, take every thought captive, kick it out of your brain. But I think something that really isn't talked about a lot when taking thoughts captive is when you kick it out, you're not just kicking it out, you're submitting it to the Lord.
Yes.
You're saying hey, God, you're bigger than this, and so I lay this at your feet, and I'm going to walk away now and let you deal with it.
I love 1 Peter 5, because it says, first off, it warns you about first it talks about humbling yourself before the Lord, and then casting your anxieties on him. And then it goes into saying, be alert, your enemy the devil prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. And so it's the way that it's ordered is saying when you're not seeking the kingdom first, you are going to be prone to be more anxious about things that just don't matter.
That's so true. It comes to how you order things of importance, like you said, if God is first on your list, man, everything else is going to fall away. Because he's got it all. And that's reinforced by Matthew 6:35. This is in Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus talks about therefore I tell you, don't worry about your life, what you eat, what you're going to drink, what you're going to wear. Life is more than food, and the body is more than clothing. Don't be anxious about anything. If I provide for the birds of the air and the flowers, the clothed in beauty and splendor, man, how much more am I going to do for you?
Yeah.
So understanding, like, yes, God is going to take care of everything.
So if I'm a friend of someone who's struggling with anxiety, is my response to them to just quote these scriptures?
Absolutely not. No. So I think it's obviously super good to like point them back to the scripture, but you just like quoting scripture at them is not going to make their problems go away.
Yeah.
There's nothing that we can do to get rid of that. Now, like things that you can do is like be patient, be encouraging, sit there and like listen to what they have to talk about, truly try to empathize with them, love them well. I think is the best thing that we can do to encourage people. And I think that ties back perfectly to finding community and accountability. If you do have anxiety, like find those people that are going to sit with you in your anxiety and just help you walk through that.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell you what to do, what you should be doing, how you should be feeling. They're just going to be like, hey, man, I love you. I want to be here for you. Like, tell me how you're feeling.
Yeah. And I think accountability is such a big thing.
Absolutely.
When when I've struggled with anxiety, I would have a friend I would text when I would start to fall in my anxious cycle. So I think having someone to go to who knows your walk and knows why, because I think that is also fueled by comparison and all the things. So having someone to go to is so important.
Especially like biblical counseling, that's obviously such a strong thing. Like finding someone that's going to point you back to the truth while also giving you like medical like advice. It's like that's their profession, right? That's what they're paid to do, so they're pretty good at it.
But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us for our 4th and final episode on the Mental Health Podcast talking about anxiety. It's been a pleasure to get to do this with y'all. We're out, guys.